What do you mean I have to wait 45 minutes? The guy after me just got a ride in 5. Elijah Vaughn stood in the back corner of the dispatch room pretending to stack folders. He kept his eyes down, but his ears were wide open. The voice belonged to a middle-aged man in construction gear, sweaty, sunburned, holding a lunch pail with one hand and waving his phone with the other. Across the desk, the dispatcher didn't bother looking up. "Sir, I don't make the traffic. Please wait your turn." Elijah glanced at the screen behind the dispatcher. 4 cars were free. He didn't say anything yet. He'd only been here 2 hours. He wasn't Elijah Vaughn right now. He was Eli, the new hire from corporate, shadowing for 3 days to learn dispatch logistics. The company had 18 taxi stations across the state, the largest family-run cab business in this part of the country. Elijah inherited it after his father passed last year. He'd grown up around drivers, oil stains, and shift changes, but he hadn't spent time working the front line in years. This station, the 6th busiest, had been the subject of vague complaints lately. Customer reviews were dipping. A few low-star ratings mentioned favoritism and rude dispatch. Nothing concrete. Elijah didn't trust reports filtered through 3 layers of management. So he put on a borrowed uniform shirt, a trucker cap, and glasses. He hadn't met the staff here before. Most only knew the CEO by name, some grainy photo from the newsletter. And since it was a corporate chain with nearly 200 employees, nobody suspected the quiet guy in the corner was the one who signed the paychecks. Another rider stepped up to the desk. This one wore a blazer, gold watch, Bluetooth in his ear. The dispatcher name tag read Mike, sat up straighter. "Good afternoon, sir. Where to?" "Airport." Mike tapped the keyboard. "I'll have someone here in less than 5 minutes. Cold water in the car. Want me to tell the driver no music?" "Perfect." Elijah's jaw tightened. The construction worker from earlier was now pacing outside, still waiting. He turned to Winnie Nolan, the only other dispatcher working the desk. She was mid-30s, curly hair tied back, eyes locked on her screen as she took a call. Her voice was patient, clear, no nonsense. "Yes, ma'am. I understand." "You were overcharged? Let me check the logs." "No, you don't need to email. Stay on the line with me." Elijah watched her work. Calm. Efficient. Professional. By noon, he'd seen enough to know 2 things. Mike played favorites, and Winnie was keeping this place from falling apart. During lunch break, Elijah stood outside by the driver bay, sipping from a vending machine water bottle. One of the drivers, a wiry guy in his 50s with a limp, leaned against the wall next to him. "New guy, huh?" the man asked. "Yeah. Eli. Name's Carl. Been here 11 years. "You like dispatch or just passing through?" "Just learning for now." Carl looked toward the station doors. "You probably noticed how things run in there." Elijah kept his tone light. "How so?" Carl shrugged. "Some riders wait half an hour. Others? 2 minutes, even if the guy before them was first. Depends on how you're dressed, who you are. If Mike thinks you're rich, you get treated like royalty." Elijah didn't respond. He didn't have to. Carl squinted at him. "Sorry. I talk too much." "No," Elijah said. "You're good." Back inside, a young woman with a backpack walked up to the window. She was holding a toddler with one arm and trying to dig through her wallet with the other. Her voice was soft, tired. "Hi, I need to get to Mercy General. My daughter has an appointment. I called earlier." Mike barely looked up. "No record of that. You'll have to wait. Could be an hour." "I called." "Did you speak to me?" "I don't know." "Then you didn't call," he said flatly. "Take a seat." Winnie turned her head. "Mike. I think I saw her name on the early call list." Mike ignored her. The woman sat down near the window. The toddler curled up in her lap. Elijah stepped outside, walked over to Carl. "Hey," he said. "Can you do a Mercy General run right now?" Carl blinked. "You serious?" "Yeah." Carl smiled. "Absolutely." Elijah went back inside and tapped Mike's desk. "That mom and her kid?" Carl said he can take them. Mike leaned back. "He's not next in line. She's going to the hospital. So are 3 others. What's your point?" "I'm just saying Carl's free." Mike shook his head. "Look, newbie. You don't get to assign rides. That's my job." Elijah didn't respond. He looked at Winnie instead. "Can you dispatch Carl?" Winnie hesitated. "Technically, Mike's lead today." "Right," Elijah said and walked off. He waited 10 minutes. The mom was still sitting there. Carl was still outside, leaning against his car, waiting for someone to wave him in. Elijah pulled out his phone. He wasn't texting. He was opening the company's employee log. He clicked Mike's profile. 3 written complaints in the last 6 months. Ignored. He closed the app. He went back inside. "Hey, Winnie," he said. "You've been here how long?" "6 years. You ever considered being a lead dispatcher?" Winnie blinked. "Why?" "Just wondering." Mike scoffed. "What's your deal, man? You've been here a day. You think you know how this place works?" Elijah took off his hat. Then his glasses. Winnie's eyes widened. Mike stared. "My name is Elijah Vaughn," he said. "I own this company, and I've been standing in this room listening to how you run my station." Mike stood there frozen. Winnie's mouth dropped open. "You're the—" "Yeah," Elijah said. "I am." The room went silent. Outside, Carl looked through the window, confused. Elijah turned to Winnie. "Dispatch, Carl. Now." She reached for her headset. Mike finally spoke. "Wait. You can't just walk in here." "You're done," Elijah said. "Clear your desk." "What?" "You're not being rude once. You're being rude every day. Playing favorites. Turning people away. Making the station worse." Mike's voice cracked. "You're making a mistake." Elijah shook his head. "I already made one. Letting this go on for months." Winnie stood stunned. Elijah looked at her. "You're in charge now." "I'll be here the rest of the day. We'll talk more later." He walked outside. Carl had already opened the back door for the woman and her daughter. Elijah watched them drive off. He exhaled slowly. He wasn't done yet. Rain started just before the afternoon shift change. A slow, steady drizzle that slicked the taxi bay and created a faint tapping sound on the station's awning. Elijah sat on a bench near the vending machines, watching the water trail across the concrete. His hat and glasses were gone, and even though a few drivers passed by with confused glances, no one said anything. Word hadn't spread yet. Winnie stepped outside, holding a clipboard. She hesitated before sitting down beside him. "You really meant it?" she asked. He didn't look at her. "Yeah. Mike's been here since before me. People usually just complain and then management forgets. I stopped expecting anything to change." "I should have noticed sooner," Elijah said. "That's on me." Winnie tilted the clipboard against her knee. "So what happens now?" "You're interim lead. We'll make it official after a review. I want to see how you run things without someone breathing down your neck." She gave a short nod. "Fair." One of the newer drivers, a soft-spoken man named Raj, walked past with a thermos in hand. He paused when he saw Elijah. "Sir, I didn't know who you were earlier." "No reason you should have," Elijah said. "You good?" "Yes. Just surprised." Winnie waited until Raj went inside. "There's something you should know. About the night shifts." Elijah turned toward her. "Mike wasn't the only one cutting corners," she said. "Some drivers get assigned more rides than others. Not because they're better, because they slip cash to the dispatcher. Usually late at night when fewer people are around." "Do you have names?" "Not yet, but I've seen patterns. Same drivers getting the high-fare airport runs when they haven't been on the schedule rotation." Elijah stood. "Let's pull the logs. I want to see the last 2 weeks of ride assignments, timestamps, and driver IDs. I'll print them now." Inside, the dispatch room felt different. Quieter. More alert. A few employees glanced up from their screens, unsure how to behave around the man who had just fired their lead in front of everyone. Elijah didn't say much. He stood behind Winnie's desk as she scrolled through the logs. "These are filtered by time of dispatch," she said. "Notice how between midnight and 4 a.m., the same 3 drivers keep getting the longest rides." Elijah leaned over her shoulder. "That's nearly every night." "Exactly. They're not even hiding it." He tapped the screen. "Who's responsible for dispatching during those hours?" Winnie clicked twice. "That would be Keenan. He works nights, part-time. Used to cover weekends only. But when Mike got promoted, Keenan picked up more hours. I want to meet him. He starts at 6. Elijah checked his watch. "Then I'll wait." By the time sunset burned through the rain clouds, the station had shifted into its evening rhythm. Fewer walk-ins, more phone calls. Airport pickups ticked up again. Drivers returned from afternoon runs with empty coffee cups and tired eyes. Elijah stayed in the back, watching. At 6:15, Keenan arrived. He was younger than Elijah expected, maybe late 20s, in a windbreaker and cargo pants, headphones around his neck. He headed straight for the dispatch window, offering Winnie a distracted wave. "Evening," he said. "Anything I need to know?" "You're covering solo tonight," she replied. "I've got admin work to finish." Keenan glanced at Elijah. "You knew." Elijah extended a hand. "Eli, just observing." Keenan shook it, half-smile on his face. "Cool. Night shifts are boring. You'll probably fall asleep." Winnie didn't respond. Keenan slid into the chair, logged in, and leaned back. "Any priority runs?" "Nope," Winnie said. "Treat everyone the same." He gave a lazy salute. "You got it." Elijah watched the screen. Within 30 minutes, 2 calls came in. One from a local bar, another from an apartment complex on the edge of town. Keenan dispatched a regular driver to the bar call. Then, after a pause, he picked up his phone, glanced around, and typed in a new assignment, this one to a driver named Felix. "Who's Felix?" Elijah asked. "Just one of our guys," Keenan said without looking up. "Why him for that run?" "Closest one." Winnie stepped up behind him. "Raj was closer." Keenan shrugged. "Felix knows the area better." "I thought you said everyone gets treated the same," Elijah said. Keenan looked up. "What's with the questions?" "You've been assigning Felix to a lot of the longer runs," said Winnie. "Even when he's not the next in line." "That's ridiculous." "I've got the logs." Keenan stood, voice rising. "I don't have to explain every decision. If someone's better at handling certain neighborhoods, that's who I'll use." Elijah took a step forward. "You ever accept money to prioritize a driver?" Keenan's eyes narrowed. "What?" "It's a simple question." "Of course not. Because if I pull security footage and check phone records, I want to be sure you're standing by that answer." Keenan looked between them, then scoffed. "This is insane." "No," Elijah said. "What's insane is that customers wait longer because drivers are gaming the system." "I don't need this," Keenan muttered, grabbing his backpack. "You want to accuse me of something, do it officially." "You'll get a call in the morning," Elijah said. "In the meantime, you're off the schedule." Keenan ignored him and walked out. Winnie exhaled. "That's 2 in one day." "We're just getting started," Elijah said. He spent the rest of the night reviewing logs with Winnie. By 10, they'd flagged 3 drivers for suspicious ride patterns. Elijah didn't make calls yet. He wanted to verify everything first. Outside, the rain had stopped. The pavement glistened under the streetlights. A few drivers lingered near the bay, swapping stories. Elijah stepped out for air. Carl was there again, this time sipping from a thermos. "You're still here?" Elijah asked. "Double shift," Carl said. "Long day. You always work that much?" "Bills don't care if you're tired." Elijah leaned against the railing. "You ever notice the same drivers getting the best runs?" Carl nodded. "Noticed years ago. But every time someone brought it up, they got shrugged off. Figured it wasn't worth the trouble." "It is now." Carl looked over. "You really gonna clean this place up?" "I have to." Carl took another sip. "Then you'll need to look beyond dispatch. Some of the drivers got cozy with folks in management. Little favors. Unofficial arrangements. Then no one's off limits." Carl looked at him for a long moment. "You know, your dad used to walk this station once a month. Just show up, no warning. People acted different when they knew he might see something. I remember. Be good to start that again." Elijah nodded. "Yeah, it would." He went back inside, mind already racing through changes. Not just firings or promotions, but systems. Oversight. Random audits, anonymous reporting, real accountability. By midnight, he was still at his desk, reviewing one log after another. No shortcuts this time. No assumptions. No delegating the hard parts. If he wanted to rebuild trust, he had to do it himself. By morning, Elijah had already sent 3 emails from his corner seat in the dispatch office, 1 to HR, 1 to the compliance auditor, and 1 to his assistant at headquarters, requesting a temporary hold on all-night shift bonuses at Station 6 pending investigation. He hadn't slept. The station's overnight buzz had faded to silence around 4, but Elijah stayed at the desk, reviewing digital ride logs and cross-referencing driver routes with timestamps and fare amounts. At 6, Winnie returned, holding a paper bag and 2 folded receipt copies. "I brought breakfast," she said, placing the bag on the table. "Nothing fancy. Just egg sandwiches." Elijah looked up. "Thanks. You didn't have to. I figured you'd still be here." He reached for one of the sandwiches. "You always start this early?" I usually come in around 7. Today felt different. Elijah took a bite. Anyone else know I'm still here? No. I didn't say anything. He nodded. Good. She sat down across from him. So, what's next? We meet the morning drivers. Quietly. I want to talk to the ones who've been getting skipped. You think they'll be honest? They've got no reason not to be now. Over the next hour, drivers started trickling in. Some nodded politely. Others kept their distance, unsure how to read the presence of the CEO in a hoodie, scribbling notes next to the dispatch terminal. Elijah waited until 3 drivers had signed in. Then he stood and walked into the break room where they were pouring coffee and sorting keys from the wall hooks. You guys have a few minutes? He asked. They turned. One of them, a broad-shouldered man with a shaved head and a sleeve tattoo, crossed his arms. Sure, he said. What's this about? Elijah kept his tone level. I'm looking into how rides are assigned. Specifically, how often certain names show up for high-mileage runs. The man nodded slowly. Been wondering when someone would ask about that. Another driver, a younger woman with a ponytail and a cracked phone screen, leaned against the counter. You're the owner, right? Yes. My cousin works dispatch in Station 12. She says they rotate assignments. No one gets skipped unless they're late. We're out here 3 days in a row with barely any fares. The third driver, older and quiet so far, finally spoke. Sometimes I wait over an hour. Then I see guys who just clocked and get the best routes. Elijah flipped open his small notebook. I need names, not rumors. Who's constantly getting those jobs? The man with the tattoo didn't hesitate. Felix. Bobby. And that guy with the silver Camry. I forget his name. Something with AD. Daryl, the woman said. Yeah, Daryl. Elijah wrote them down. Have you ever been asked for favors? Money, gifts, anything. To jump the line? All 3 shook their heads. Anything you've seen others do? The woman hesitated, then nodded. I saw Bobby hand Keenan something last week. Could have been keys, but it looked like rolled cash. He slipped it under a folder. Elijah closed his notebook. Thank you. That helps. As he turned to leave, the older driver said, Mr. Vaughn. We've been trying to do things right. Showing up on time. Doing the rough routes. Don't forget about us when the dust settles. Elijah met his eyes. I won't. By mid-morning, he had pulled Felix's driver record. Everything looked clean on paper, no complaints, no missed shifts, solid ratings. But his earnings were unusually high for someone with equal hours. Elijah walked out to the lot and waited by the driver entrance. Felix arrived 10 minutes later, wearing sunglasses and a leather jacket despite the overcast sky. Elijah stepped into his path. Got a minute? Felix pulled off his glasses. Sure. What's going on? I've got some questions about your last few weeks. Ride assignments. Routes. Felix glanced around. Is this a formal thing? Not yet. Just a conversation. Felix nodded. All right. They walked to a quiet bench under the awning. Elijah pulled out a folded printout. This is your ride log. You've had the highest yield routes for 12 of the last 15 shifts. Most of them were dispatched between midnight and 4. Felix shrugged. I work graveyard. Not many drivers want those hours. True, but Raj works the same shift. So does Linda. Neither of them gets more than 2 long-distance fares a week. Felix leaned back. I don't know what to tell you. Maybe I'm just efficient. You ever pay a dispatcher to prioritize you? Felix's answer came too fast. No, never. You ever give gifts? Gas cards? Cash? Anything? No. Elijah held his gaze. Because I've got reports that say otherwise. Felix's jaw shifted. Look, if someone's trying to throw me under the bus, that's not on me. I show up. I take the rides. I don't make the rules. Elijah stood. We'll be reviewing footage and logs. If you're clean, you'll be cleared. If not, we'll take action. Felix didn't say anything. Back inside, Winnie was flipping through the complaint archives. She held up a folder. This one's from February. The writer described a driver refusing to take their voucher and being told to find another ride if they weren't paying cash. The driver ID matches Daryl. Elijah scanned the folder. Anything happen after the complaint? No follow-up. Looks like it got marked as resolved without details. Who cleared it? Mike. Elijah nodded once. Let's call Daryl in. Daryl arrived just after noon. He was tall, lanky, with a worn leather steering wheel cover tucked under his arm. When he saw Elijah and Winnie waiting at the front of the office, he slowed but didn't stop. You need something? He asked. We'd like to talk, Elijah said. Daryl tilted his head, amused. About what? Voucher refusals. Route assignments. Your dispatch history. Daryl sighed. This about that Mercy General lady? That was months ago. No, Elijah said. This is about a pattern. We've got multiple entries showing you received high-value rides out of rotation. I work fast. I don't waste time between runs. That's not what this is. Daryl's voice hardened. You think I'm bribing dispatch? I think something isn't right. I'm giving you the chance to explain it. Daryl's eyes flicked to Winnie. She's the one feeding you this? She's not the one under review. Daryl dropped the steering wheel cover onto a nearby chair. You want honesty? Fine. Keenan offered me a deal. Said if I tossed him $20 a shift, he'd make sure I wasn't waiting around. I figured it wasn't hurting anyone. It is, Elijah said. It's hurting every driver who plays by the rules. I was just trying to make rent. That's not an excuse. I know. Elijah stepped aside. Leave your badge. You'll be contacted about next steps. Daryl didn't argue. Once he left, Winnie sat down slowly. That's the first time someone's admitted it. Elijah folded his arms. Which means we're past denial. Now we rebuild. She looked at him. How? We start fresh. New dispatch policy. Random audits. Driver assignments tracked daily and reviewed weekly. No more verbal, only complaints. Winnie nodded. What about you? I'll be here more. Not just the station. All of them. Quiet visits. No announcements. She smiled slightly. That'll shake things up. It's overdue. Outside, the sun finally broke through the clouds. A line of taxis idled near the bay, drivers leaning against doors, waiting. Elijah walked to the edge of the lot, watching them. He'd seen enough. The station wasn't broken. It was neglected. There was a difference. And now the repairs could finally begin. Elijah stood near the window of the second-floor conference room, watching a cab pull away from the station. It was late afternoon. The sky had gone pale again, a dull gray that seemed to press down on the rooftops. From here, he could see the lot clearly, the lineup of taxis, the idle drivers sipping from thermoses, and the steady flow of customers moving in and out of the lobby. Behind him, papers rustled across the table as Denise, his operations director, flipped through a short stack of printed reports. Dispatch irregularities at Station 6 go back about 9 months, she said. That's when Mike was promoted. Before that, logs were pretty consistent. Elijah turned from the window. I need to know if this was isolated. It wasn't, Denise said, not looking up. We pulled data from 3 other stations. Similar favoritism patterns. Not as blatant but still there, especially on overnight shifts. He sat down across from her. Who's overseeing those shifts? Supervisors with limited oversight. Most of them report directly to one regional manager. Carson Bell. Elijah leaned back. Carson's been with us how long? 7 years. Promoted 2 years ago after we absorbed Turner Transit. He tapped a pen against the edge of the folder. Schedule a meeting with him. I want it in person. Denise nodded. Tomorrow morning. He pushed the folder aside. Let's switch gears. What's the status on the revised dispatch policy? Final draft's ready. Mandatory ride rotation, no overrides without written justification, and daily random reviews by a neutral third party. Who's doing the reviews? HR's compliance team. They'll rotate weekly. Elijah folded his arms. And Winnie. She's taken over seamlessly. Already implemented route charts to ensure even distribution. Drivers are responding well. Any pushback? A little. Mostly from those who benefited under the old system. Let them adjust or let them go. Denise hesitated. What about Keenan? Terminations being finalized. Legal's reviewing the documentation. Once that's done, we'll notify him formally. He stood again, pacing slowly toward the door. Make sure the messaging is clear. This isn't just about punishment. It's about rebuilding fairness. As he stepped into the hallway, his phone buzzed. Winnie's name lit up the screen. I just had a driver come in, she said. Said someone outside's telling people the CEO's putting everyone under surveillance. That we're installing cameras in all the cars. Who? Felix. I'll be right down. He crossed the office space quickly, bypassing the break room and descending the back stairwell. Outside, the air had cooled and the wind carried the faint scent of wet pavement. Near the far side of the lot, a cluster of drivers stood with their arms crossed, listening to Felix. Elijah approached without slowing. Felix spotted him and stepped back slightly but didn't leave. You spreading rumors? Elijah asked. Felix rolled his shoulders. I told them what you're doing. You're turning this into a surveillance company. I never said anything about cameras. Same difference. You're watching us like we're criminals. No. I'm making sure no one cheats the system. Felix looked around at the drivers. You all hear that? If you're not perfect, you're next. One of the drivers, a tall man with a green cap, shook his head. No one said that. Felix scoffed. You gonna defend this guy now? Elijah stepped forward. You got caught bending the rules. You can own it or keep blaming everyone else. I didn't do anything worse than what the company allowed. That's your defense? Felix didn't answer. Elijah turned to the others. You've all seen how things ran. You know who got favored. That ends now. We're not watching you, we're watching the system. The driver in the green cap spoke again. We just want to work. No games. No side deals. And that's exactly what we're protecting, Elijah said. Felix muttered something under his breath and walked off. Elijah didn't follow. Back inside, he found Winnie reviewing a new scheduling layout on the office whiteboard. She looked up as he entered. He's still trying to stir things up, she said. He won't be here much longer. She nodded once. You handled it well. He glanced at the board. What's this? Updated shift rotations. Based on feedback. Some people prefer early mornings, others asked for weekend coverage. I'm trying to give them flexibility without losing structure. He studied the columns. You're good at this. I've been waiting a long time to do it right. He pointed to an empty row near the bottom. Who's covering this zone? No one yet. I was gonna ask Carl if he'd take it. He knows the area better than anyone. Offer it to him permanently, with a bump in rate. She smiled. He'll appreciate that. Elijah checked his watch. I'll be back tomorrow. But after that, I'm pulling back. Winnie raised an eyebrow. Already? I've seen what I needed to see. It's your station now. Feels different without the old weight. It should. She paused. What about the other stations? I'm visiting all of them over the next month. No announcements. No press. Just walking in. She capped her marker and set it down. That'll keep people honest. He nodded. That's the idea. As he left the office, he passed by the front lobby. A mother with 2 young sons sat near the window, checking her phone and glancing out at the lot. One of the boys tugged on her sleeve. A driver walked in, recognized them, and held the door open with a smile. The boys ran ahead, laughing. The mother followed, relieved. Elijah paused at the door. That was the kind of moment he built this company for. Not headlines, not quarterly reports, just people getting where they needed to go, treated with respect. He stepped outside into the wind. A few taxis pulled out. A few more rolled in. The rhythm was steady now. Fair. He didn't need to say anything. The work was already speaking for itself.